Locho sampo pagyo trashi pa tuche tempe chinle yarngoda pege drolo zambe zebarache palde lame shabla solvade Omo a guru vajrada suma timo nisha sanekar Uta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Om Guru Vajra Suma Timo Nisha Sane Karm Uta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Om Guru Vajra Suma Timo Nisha Sane Karm Uta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Om Guru Vajrada Suma Timo Nisha Saneka Uta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Om Guru Vajra Suma Timo Nisha Saneka Uta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Om Guru Vajrad Uta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Pakyuke kudan dagi lo, pakyuke sondan dagi nga, pakyuke tudan dagi, ten yerme chiktu jingi lo. Makyuke kudan dagi lo, makyuke sondan dagi nga, makyuke tudan dagi, ten yerme chiktu jingi lo. Om Mun Muni Mahamuni Shakyamuni Swaha Om Muni Mahamuni Shakyamuni Swaha Om Muni Maha Shakyamuni Swaha Sangye Chedan Soge Chanamla Chancho Pardo Dani Kyapsuchi Dagi Jinso Give Sonam Ging Rola Pinchire Sangye Druparish Sangye Chedan Soge Chanamla Chancho Pardo Dani Kyap Dagi Jinso Give Sonam Ging Rola Pinchire Sangye Druparish Sangye Chedan Soge Chanamla Chancho Pardo Dani Kyapsuchi Dagi Jinso Gib Drola Pinchire Sangye Druparisho. In the Buddha, Dharma and Sangha, I take refuge unto enlightenment. Through the practice of generosity and the other perfections, may I attain Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings. So today I choose not to make any introduction specifically, basically because we have many things to see today, many very beautiful, special things, and then if we go on with making an introduction, it doesn't matter how much I try to make it short, it's always becoming long. So we go directly to the point. So before we start to see the verse of today, yesterday we explained the 5 forces. And as I told you yesterday, I was not really sure the way how I was explaining was fully correct or not. So what I did was that I went to check back again, and I have here, and it's a bit different from what I explained yesterday, the correct way. So we have the 5 forces. The order is different of the order that we said yesterday. So the correct order is, first we have the force of intention, then we have the force of familiarization, then we have the force of virtue, then the force of antidote, and the 5th is the force of prayer. So the first one, the force of intention, is the intention of never letting our mind be driven by selfishness and other mental defilements. Is determination. Lo danzin chadan sogi wantu mi tonga nyampas. So it's to have the intention, I will never let myself be driven, be taken by anger, jealousy, pride, miserliness, and most of all by selfishness. So having this intention. The second one, the power of familiarization, is the fact of never being separated in our daily life from the practice of lojong, from the mind training, which means giving and taking, and the practice of transforming the adverse circumstances into the path to enlightenment, and keeping our commitments of the mind transforming practice, and so on. So by keeping in our daily life, not being separated from the practice of lojong, of mind training, this is called the power of familiarization. Then after that we have the force or power of virtue, that's the same as we said yesterday, is the actual accumulation of merits. It's the actual effort that we do to accumulate merits, to accumulate positive energy in our life, so to do virtuous actions. In order for the bodhicitta to grow and to be stable. Then we have the power of antidote, which is specifically related to selfishness itself, which means constantly recognizing the faults of selfishness. The power of intention is like, I don't want to be driven by selfishness and anger and so on. In this case, it's just recognizing the faults of selfishness. Think, oh, selfishness is harmful for this reason, that other reason. And it's recognizing all the faults and all the reasons why we should abandon and we should not follow selfishness. Okay? And then we have the last one, which is the power of prayer, which means to pray so that we may always be with the mind of bodhicitta. So it's direct our mind. I always want to be with the bodhicitta. I never want to be separated from the mind of love, compassion, wisdom. I never want to be separated from it. Okay? So these are the 5 forces. Okay. So, today we will go one verse backwards. We go to verse number 98. As yesterday, we jumped it because I was missing the commentary to check a few things. And it says, Jorwa shidan dempe tap keki, trela kantu gomla jorwadan, lojon tamsik labche nyamlingi, telchur tunchin jompar jingilob. Telchur tunchin chebar jingilob. Okay, and the translation says, where is it gone? Here it is. Whatever we occasion to meet, we seek your blessings that we may adapt it to our meditation by the skillful means of the 4 acts of use, by the 4 acts of behavior, the 4 forms of behavior. We render this life, may we render this life of liberties and endowments infinitely meaningful by putting into practice the advice and commitments of the training of the mind. So first of all, let's understand what are these 4 acts of behavior, okay? So, the 4 acts. The first 2 is to accumulate merits and to purify our negativities, okay? And this is actually something very important, because in the moment we want to realize something, as we were talking yesterday about causes and results and so on, if we do not create the causes, even though we may have all the conditions, there will be no results. So in our path of the Dharma, even though we may have all the knowledge, if we do not have the causes, we will not realize it. So the danger is that if we do not follow a path also of accumulation of merit and purification of our negativities, what happens is that we may have all the theoretical understanding. I may know that anger is not good and the importance of bodhicitta and here and there. I may have all the knowledge of the philosophy, but it remains only conceptual. I'm not able to apply it deeply to my life and to my mind and to experience it and to realize it, because I miss the merits for it. I don't have the right energy, I don't have the right causes to sustain such inner state. That's why also in monasteries such as Sera, where I was studying, the process of study there is not only going to the classes and studying, there's the whole part of going to all the pujas and working in the monastery, which is like all the karma yoga. So it's all seen as methods for accumulation of merit and purification, which needs to go together with the part of the study and learning. The 2 things are very important. So based on that, it's like when we see, how many times it happened to how many of us, how many times it happened to so many of us that we may say, yes, I know that it's not good to get angry. But does this mean that we never get angry? No. Knowing is not enough. And in order to realize, we need to meditate, but we also need to accumulate merits. Without the causes, we cannot experience the results. So we need to accumulate causes, we need to accumulate merits. And we need to purify our own negativities. So in order to sustain, in order to increment our practice of the mind training, these are 4 actions to increment, to increase the practice of mind training. Okay? So the first 2 is to accumulate merits in a conscious way. One of the main forms of accumulating merit is by generosity, is by giving, by sharing. And normally when we give to sentient beings, when we give to those that have an equal or lower spiritual development than ours, it's called an act of generosity. When we share, when we give to those that have a higher spiritual development than ours, it's called an act of offering. Okay? So when we make an offering or when we make an act of generosity, they're actually very similar in a way. What makes the main difference is to whom we are offering. Okay? So, and it's by giving one of the best ways for us to accumulate our own merits and to accumulate positive energy ourselves. Then we can also do that by keeping purely our commitments. We can do that by meditating on the correct view of reality. There are other different ways how we can also accumulate merit. But it's important that we need daily to accumulate merit consciously. Then we have the next step, which is to purify our own negativities. Purification, there are different methods of purification. The most well-known and most important one is the purification through the 4 powers. The 4 forces of purification, we call them also. Which are, the first one is to develop an opposite attitude to the one we had while doing the negative action. So if I did an action out of anger, out of hatred, I need to generate a mind of love, compassion. I need to have an opposite attitude. No? We will never be able to purify an karma if we are still on the same emotional state. So, also because in order for me to fully acknowledge that that action was a mistake, I need to change my emotional state. So, in the moment, first thing that we need to do is we develop an opposite state of mind. So if we had anger, we need to develop love and compassion. Miserliness, we need to develop generosity, and so on. Okay? And the basis, the basic mind to purify is the mind of love. Love and compassion is the basis. So with that, then we have the basis because we generate an opposite attitude. Generally speaking, we can make a negative action towards two different types of, we call objects, but we can make a negative action towards sentient beings or towards holy beings. Whenever we make so in order to purify our actions that we do towards sentient beings, the basis is love and compassion. And to purify the negative actions we did towards holy beings, the basis that we need to develop is faith, respect, gratitude. Okay? So basically, what happened is that to purify all the negative actions we did, the basis that we go through is developing bodhicitta in order to purify the negativities that we did towards sentient beings, and taking refuge in order to purify the negativities we did towards holy beings. Okay? The second force of purification is the force in which Sunjimpetop is called. It's the force in which we openly admit our own mistakes. That's a very important part also, because it's the moment in which we say, yes, I did a mistake, that was wrong. This doesn't mean feeling guilty or blaming ourselves. It's simply recognizing and admitting that that specific action was wrong. We don't need to judge, we don't need to justify, we don't need to do anything. We just need to openly admit and say, this action was a mistake. So we openly admit our own mistakes of body, speech, and mind. Okay? So, it's an important part. Also, it's important to make difference of to confess. Because normally when we talk about the word confession, it brings the idea of guilty. Yes, I did something wrong, I am the bad one. In this case, we just need to openly admit the mistake. We are not here, we don't need to feel guilty. We don't need to blame ourselves for anything. We just need to openly admit the mistake itself. Okay? That's the second force of purification. The third force of purification is to have a full determination not to repeat the same action again. It's important. So, I did something wrong, I openly admit, and I make the commitment, I do not want to repeat this action again. I will not repeat this action again. We make the commitment not to repeat it again. Okay? Then we have the fourth power of purification. And the fourth power of purification, it is when we need to do something positive, which basically means we generate an opposite force. We did a negative action, now we're going to do a positive action. We generate an opposite energy in order to eliminate the previous negative action that we did. So it's like we did a negative force, now we do a positive force that will go against it. And by that it will eliminate that force. So based on that, we can help other people, we can do many things. We can do, for example, practices of, there are different meditations that we can do of purification, we can clean the environment, we can do many different things that will generate a positive energy. And by generating this positive energy, we direct this energy that we did against the negative energy that we did in the past. And by that we can purify it. That's why we need first to generate an opposite state of mind. Then we need to generate openly admit the negative action we did, to have a full commitment not to repeat it again. And then we have the fourth power, which is to practically do something to generate an opposite energy in order to purify the one that we did in the past. Okay? Yeah. Yeah. So, the question is, what, in the third step, when we make a commitment not to repeat a certain action again, but sometimes we know that somehow we are going to commit it again. We know that we don't have the full strength, we know that we have the bad habits, so how can I commit myself? Maybe we may have the sensation of doing a double negative action. It's like I'm committing myself to something I cannot do. So it's even worse somehow, no? So the point is that, first of all, it's like the wish not to repeat again. This must be very clear. I deeply wish never to repeat again. Please, Guru Buddha, bless me to have the strength not to repeat again. Okay? Second, it said that it's important to make the commitment even though we know that we're not going to be able to keep it really. Because by making the commitment, I will not do the same thing again. I don't want to let myself be taken. We are able to hold a little bit longer. If we say, oh yes, I'm going to repeat it anyhow, what can I do? It's like that. Then we just get loosened and loosened. So instead of, when we make the commitment, we are able to hold a little bit longer. Then when it happens again, I say, oh no, I broke this commitment again, I shouldn't do it. Let me once again, I will not repeat it again. And we put the strength, and maybe we're able to hold it a little bit longer. But the basis of it is the wish not to repeat again. That's the most important focus part. Okay? So, but it's a very important question. I myself, for a long time, I was like, I cannot purify this. I know that I'm going to do it again. How can I commit myself not to do it? No. So, but by doing this, basically what happened is that we just let the things to continue and continue and continue. Okay. Normally, this is more. It can happen more often. This type of inability to purify in this way when there is a negative action that the taste is sweet. No. There is a negative action that it is pleasurable somehow. Something like, then it's more like, okay, yes, I know it's not good, I know I did a mistake, but I really like it. So, no. That's actually more difficult, because one thing is like you were talking about the anger, which is a strong, deep habit that we have. So it's more correct to make the commitment not to follow again, and then after we follow again, we fall in on it again, it's okay. But when we don't make the commitment simply because we want to repeat the action again, and conceptually we know that it's wrong, but actually we do really want to repeat it again, this means that we never really openly admitted it as a mistake. Okay, is it clear, the difference? Okay. Anyhow, so these are the two first actions to increase the practice of Lojong. Okay. And to purify our negativities in a daily basis is also important, because the karma has also one aspect which is called lepelwetsul, the aspects of increasing, which means in the moment we do an action, let's say I do a small negative action of lying to someone. Then what happens is that it passes by, I don't remember it, I don't openly admit it, it just goes by. In time it increases. Karma is like one inertia, one energy that we throw. And if we do not make anything to stop it, it will grow and grow and grow. So there is the danger of out of a small negative action have a big result. That's why, for example, Atisha, when he was traveling from India to Tibet, they were in a big caravan. And he will stop the whole caravan from time to time to openly admit his mistakes. They will say to whoever, oh, I broke this vow, I didn't keep that commitment, I did this thought, I had that. After some time, people came to him and said, great master, first of all, the negativities you are openly admitting to us, we cannot even understand it. why they are negativities or what they are. We cannot even understand it really well. Other thing, we need to keep them for ourselves. For us, we don't need to know them. And most of all, we need to get to Tibet, so the road is long. If we need to stop every time, it's getting a little bit long. And he said no, because every negative action, it doesn't matter how small it may be, it must be openly admitted as soon as possible, because this avoids that negative action of growing. When we openly admit a negative action, we are not purifying it, but we are blocking it from growing. So if every day, by the end of the day, we can go and we can just reveal what we have done during the day, and we openly admit our mistakes, and we make a commitment not to repeat them again, it's already, at least, we are blocking these actions, this karma, from growing. Okay? The other benefit that is there also is in the moment that we openly admit our mistakes every day, and we generate the commitment not to repeat them again, what happens is that we block the bad habits from building up. Because otherwise we do something negative, we don't remember it, and tomorrow we do it again, then the day after tomorrow we repeat it again, and then slowly we build it up more and more and more. So in the moment that we openly admit it every day, we need to be careful not to enter into the attitude of guilt, feeling guilty. Okay? But when we openly admit it, then what happens is that naturally we block it from building these bad habits, which is also something very important. In other words, it's really important for us on a daily basis to do practices of purification. Okay? To go to these 4 powers, to go to these 4 forces of purification, and to do the part of accumulation of merit. So these are the first 2 actions or behaviors that increase the mind training process. Okay? Now let's go to the next 2. The next 2 actions in our modern culture, maybe it's not so easy to understand, but we will go through the explanation of it, try to make it as clear as possible. It's the fact that, first of all, we are all influential beings. We can get influenced very easy. In the sense that if we are near to a person, we are influenced by that person. If we go to a place, we are influenced by the place where we go. For example, if we are near to one person that is very angry, are we influenced by that or not? Yes. Okay. And what happened based on this is that on a gross level, we need to be careful to avoid negative influences. That's also why within the teachings of Lamrim is giving a lot of importance to what is called avoid negative friendships, or friendships that take you away from the path. Basically, it means if we have a friendship with someone and we see that by being more near to that person, we get more far from our spiritual path, then it's better to avoid that friendship, to make distance. If we see there are places that when we go, we have a bad influence. If we see there are people that when we meet, we have a bad influence. And bad influence doesn't mean necessarily feeling bad. It means receiving an influence so that we even may feel pleasure, but our mind becomes much more attached to the superficial, mundane things, and we get more far away from our spiritual path. This is a bad influence. Okay? So basically, in a gross level, we need in our daily life to try to avoid negative influences and to try to create positive conditions. Okay? Disregard places, people, situations, and so on. But also there is the existence of a subtle influence, positive and negative. So there are places that have some sort of energy that may be not good for us. Then there are also what are so-called in English spirits. In Tibetan there are different words. And in English I don't know if there are many different words, but normally we all call it just the spirits. We generalize it as spirits. Okay? Basically, it's forms of life that are more subtle. is forms of life that don't have a gross body such as ours. Okay? In the same way that a person, an animal can influence us, also a spirit can influence us. So these two actions regard creating harmony with the subtle world, with the subtle beings, basically, in order for us not to be influenced negatively. So the first of the two, so the third action, is to create harmony by making offerings to the spirits. It's like we go to one place, we want to be friends with those that are there. So we make presents, we show to them that we come in peace. So basically we try to make friendship with them. So we do that by making offerings. Okay? There are different ways how we can do that. Normally it's called in Tibetan torma jimpa, to give the torma, but it doesn't necessarily need to be this little ritual cake of the torma. We can make it in like, even for example, since the time of Buddha, Buddha taught all his disciples, all the monks had the commitment of doing that. It's something that doesn't happen so often anymore, but it's the fact of whenever you eat, whenever we eat, we can leave one small part, doesn't matter how big, of what we ate. We leave in the end of the food, we just leave it there, and we dedicate that for the local spirits. Okay? There is also the tradition of like taking the rice or the bread and putting on the hand and making a little, I don't know how to say that, shaping it with the hand, making 5 different signs with the hand and leaving there. And then there are some prayers that we can do, like similar to the tsogla, and then we dedicate like the remaining tsog, and then we dedicate this for the spirits. So because there are some types of spirits that by their karma they can only be nourished by something that has been thrown away, that is like the remaining of someone. Okay, so that we dedicate for all these spirits, especially whatever we ate, we dedicate for them also. Okay, so by doing that, we create some positive connection. We create a positive interdependence with these beings, or interdependence with these beings. So we can do that by offering them as we eat, or even when we drink. We leave a little bit in the end when we dedicate for the beings that are around us. And as we give to them, we say, please, let's live in harmony. I have nothing against you. Please enjoy what I'm giving you. And we should imagine always the best whenever we give something. Then there are practices such as when we do the tsog in the Guru Puja, when we do the tsogla, the remaining tsog, we also have the same function. Then there are many different other practices. There is the practice of giving the torma to the local deities. Then there is one practice which is called torma gyatsa. It's a practice which is specifically done as an act of generosity for the spirits. It's like we're making friendship with the local spirits and making an act of generosity. The only, let's say, problem of this practice is it is said that once you start doing the practice, you can never stop. Like you do one time, then you need to do every day for the rest of the life. I don't do it. I have never done it. I have some friends that do this practice, like teachers and friends that do this practice. And like one of my teachers in Tibet, every morning when I would go for teaching, he was just finishing to do this practice. So I would like just wait him to finish it. Then after he would give me the teachings. And it's a practice. Normally when people are doing it, they wear some little thing in the front like this to cover the eyes. And then there is also, you need like, normally there are little balls made of tsampa or whatever, like that is like they need to put in the water one by one, giving to the different types of spirits and creating friendship with the spirits and so on. This is a specific practice called torma gyatsa. And but then there are other ways that we can do it also. One very simple way is by doing the 6 mantras and 6 mudras. Om Sobhava Bishute Dharmate Bendasideho Namo Sarvadata Gata Bayo Bishomukebye Sarvate Kamyo Gate Parana Hema Kanganam Kamso Omo Amrite Hompe Om Akaramuga Sarvadharmadye Nubenadete Namo Sarvadata Gata Valokite Om Sambara Sambara Omororo Buru Sarvatishta Siddhalozani Sarvarda Sadana Yeswoha. Just as we have in the practice of making peace with the environment. No? One of the reasons why this practice is inside making peace with the environment is when we need to make peace with the environment, it refers also to the subtle environments, which means that the beings that live in the environment. the spirits and so on. So this is a practice which is good for us to do whenever we go to a new place, whenever we change country, whenever we go to a place in the middle of the nature. We create harmony with the beings living there. There are places that we go that we that we feel the influence of the place. It's interesting, no? Like one time for me was so clear. I was in India at Seda Monastery, and then I went for a walk together with a friend, and like half an hour walk from the monastery, there is a forest, and this forest is quite big. It's more than 200 kilometers of forest, and we would go walk like 1-2 hours into the forest and then come back. And one day we were walking and we reached a place that normally I have never reached before. And then it was a very beautiful place. And it has no trees. It was a place completely open without trees, like round area more or less. And then when I entered that area, I started feeling really bad. Like really something strong, like pressing my chest. And I was like, not feeling comfortable at all. Then I made few steps behind, and then that feeling stopped. Then I entered again, and that feeling came back again. Then I looked to my friend, and he, without speaking, we both understood we were having the same thing. After we spoke, and then it was clear. And then came some fear. I said, no, this is not the right place for me to be. Let's go back. Okay, it's enough. So we went out of that place. This is to say, there are places where there can be influences. Okay? So basically, what is important here is that in order for us to be in harmony, in order for our mind not to have any negative influence, we try to make peace with all the subtle forms of life by acts of generosity. And then, for those that don't want to be in peace with us, even though we are nice to them, we need to rely ourselves upon someone that can protect us. It's similar, let's say I go to live in a new place, and then when I go to this new town, I try to make friendship with all the neighbors and the people around, and I give them presents, and I am nice to them. But then there is some local criminality, and some local mafia criminals that don't want to make friendship with me, don't accept my friendship, and they are continuously harming me. So what I need to do? I need to ask protection to someone that knows the language of these people but is stronger than them. Okay? So basically this is what means when we need to rely upon a Dharmapala. Rely upon a Dharma protector. We rely upon a Dharma protector in order to protect us from subtle influences, subtle interferences that we are not able to eliminate or to pacify by our normal acts of generosity. So we rely upon these so-called Dharma protectors or Dharmapala. Okay, Pala means protector. Dharma is the Dharma, the spiritual path. So what is the function of a Dharmapala? What is the function of a protector of the Dharma? Is to protect the practitioner from subtle interferences. This is the function. It's not to make money, it's not to have success in mundane things or whatever else. It's specifically to create harmony and to protect us on a subtle level. Okay? So, to whom should we rely upon as a Dharmapala? Normally, we should rely upon someone that we have a recommendation. Which means, traditionally, the disciple always relies upon a protector that his guru have already relied upon. So my guru, he has already a connection with a protector, so he gives me the connection, so he shares with me the same connection, and then based on that, I will rely on myself upon the same protector. Or on the monastery, for example, when a monk enters a monastery, every monastery have their own protectors. This independently of which tradition of Tibetan Buddhism, Nyingma, Kagyu, Sakya, Gelug, okay? Like, for example, when I was in the monastery in India, the protector of the monastery was mainly Tao. Then the protector of the department in which I was Mahakala. So I was doing every month Mahakala Puja, I was doing every month Tao Puja. Then when we were doing the Puja of the monastery had many protectors. So we had Pandelamo, Mahakala, Tao, and many others. We were like Chamsing, okay, there are many other protectors that exist, okay? So normally we rely upon the protector that our Guru has already relied upon, that he received this transmission from his Guru and so on. So in our case, the protector that Lama Ganchen, our Guru, has relied upon and has transmitted to us, we have mainly Panden Lamo and Dorje Shukden. These are the two main protectors that our Guru has relied upon, and also that has put as a protectors for our center, for example. Okay? Then there are other protectors also, such as Kalarupa or Setrab or many other protectors. I repeat, every tradition, every monastery have their own protectors. So it's not something that specific of our lineage or our tradition to have a protector. This is something extremely common. And the tradition says that we should rely upon the protector that our Guru has already relied upon and transmit to us. Okay? And the reason for that, I repeat once again, is because I am not able to deal in this subtle level, in order to rely upon someone that is able to protect me on a subtle level from the interferences of spirits and so on that may be harmful or may be a negative influence towards myself. Okay? Simple as that. Okay. And we do that by making the protector puja, by reciting the protector mantra, by creating this connection, by relying upon. Okay, more than reciting the prayer is the inner attitude that we have. Well, okay, with this we conclude the 4 actions to increase the path, the practice of mind training. Now we need to go through the vows and advices. Okay? So we go now to the point in which refers to the 18 vows, commitments, and the 22 advices on the mind training. Okay? So just remember one thing. A commitment, a vow, is a commitment that we make in order to act in a positive way on something that normally would not come spontaneously to us. So when we make a commitment to avoid something, why we need to make the commitment? Because sometimes naturally that wish will come. I make my commitment not to lie. Why? Because sometimes I want to lie. Because I have the commitment, I protect myself from lying. Okay? So, the 18 precepts, not the precepts, sorry, the 18 commitments of mind training. First, don't go against the mind training you promised to observe. In other words, I promised to train myself into developing a mind of love and compassion, an altruistic attitude, and to abandon the selfish attitude. So I shouldn't go against that, like saying, okay, that's too tired today, let me just be selfish. I'm tired of this altruistic attitude, or giving up on it. So never give up on the mind training. I'm just going to go through a quick reading of the vows, okay? I'm not going to go through a commentary of it. I've given this more detailed explanation on the teachings on the 7-point mind training. We have the recordings of it. Anybody can listen and see it again. Second, don't be reckless in your practice. When we mean don't be reckless, another way of translating is like don't be a superhero in your practice, which is like sometimes people may think, because I am doing the mind training, I can do anything I want. So I will not get sick if I am even involved with infectious diseases, or I can go in the middle of the war, nothing will happen to me because I am protected by my own mind training and so on. Do not abuse the practice in this sense. Do not be reckless. Remember your own limits. Okay? Third, don't be partial. Don't be partial in the practice means don't make, I practice mind training with my friends and family and I don't practice with these other people. No, we need to practice in every condition, in every context, with everyone. So, don't be partial. And these first 3 are called the 3 general points. Fourth, transform your attitude but maintain your natural behavior. Which means transform your inner attitude of abandoning selfishness and developing altruistic mind, But you don't need to show that externally. Don't need to change the way how you dress, don't need to change the way how you talk, don't need to change the way of your external behavior. Sure, when we change our internal behavior, naturally our external behavior will change also. But that's a natural, spontaneous result, which is okay. But we don't need to force our external change in order to show that I am a practitioner of Lojo. It's something that we practice within our mind, not externally. Fifth, don't speak of others' incomplete qualities. In other words, do not criticize others. This doesn't mean we need to close our eyes and not see the faults of others. And if there is a situation that, for example, let's say I need to take a driver, and then someone come to me, and I took a driver one time, and this person really drove very badly. Then one time, someone come to me and said, "Oh, I need to take a driver. What would you think of that person?" What do we need to do? I cannot criticize, but I cannot lie. What I said, look, my experience was not good. I just say what was my experience. And that's okay. Criticizing means like when we go around, after taking the car and coming back of the trip, I start saying to people, "Oh, this person is such a bad driver, how terrible he is, blah, 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 blah." We go on criticizing. This we shouldn't do. Okay? So, if we look to ourselves, 99% when we talk about the missing qualities of someone, it's just pure criticism. Okay? So we need to be careful to avoid that. And the next commitment, which is very much connected, it says, don't concern yourself with others' business. Mind your own business. Mentally and verbally. Okay? I think it's quite clear. 7. Train to counter whichever disturbing emotion is greatest. Which means, whatever mental defilement is the strongest, that's the first one that we need to counteract, that we need to avoid, that we need to apply the antidote to. Okay? Give up every hope of reward. Do everything you do for what you are doing and not for something that you may get in exchange. Have no hope of receiving money, gratitude, thanks, or anything. Do what you do of eliminating your selfishness, of developing altruism, of helping others. Do whatever you do. Why? Because you want to be of benefit for others. Simple as that. Do not expect anything back. Avoid poisonous food. Number 9. Avoid poisonous food is a metaphor. Food is something that nourishes us. But if the food is poisoned, it's not going to nourish, it's going to harm us. Similar to that, the spiritual practices should nourish our spiritual path. But if they are poisoned with selfishness, they may actually harm our path. For example, if I want to go and I need to do like recitation of mantra, not because I want to familiarize my mind positively and so on, but because I want to show that I am the best practitioner and how good I am and I did 5,000 million mantras, whatever. If I want to show for that reason, then I am actually putting poison on the food. And I'm eating poisonous food. And this should be avoided. Okay? I think it's quite clear, right? Number 10, don't maintain misplaced loyalty. Misplaced loyalty, it means to keep loyalty with our bad behaviors and our bad habits. We have bad habits and we say, okay, yes, I know, but I need to keep it I'm doing that for such a long time. So we are somehow making friendship with our own negative habits and we are not putting an effort to eliminate and to transform it. Okay? That means misplaced loyalty. 11, don't make sarcastic remarks. I think this is quite clear. Okay. 12, don't lie in ambush. Don't wait the right moment for revenge or for harming others. In other words, do not do revenge. Do not wait the moment to harm someone. Yes, you told something to me which I didn't like. Let me wait the right moment, and then I will show you the way what I can tell you and what I can do towards you. Like we wait the moment to harm others. This we should avoid. This we should not do. Don't strike at the vital point. Don't strike at a vital point. Don't look for the weak place of the other person in order to harm him. We do that. Normally people do that when fighting, for example. I saw that many times. When a person starts discussing and fighting with the other, normally what is done? The person goes to look for the most weak point in order to harm, in order to strike. Don't do that. Like, I was just remembering now, time ago, I was in the middle of a discussion with a person about something specific, and then the person starts discussing about the object, and then suddenly goes outside of the actual object of what we are discussing, and then starts to find weak points to harm me, and like saying things really not nice. Then after, when everything calmed down, I said to the person, but why you need to say me these things, I never did anything to harm you. Why you need to say these things to me in that way? It was even not the actual subject, and so on. And the person told me, we were fighting. This is the most normal thing. When you fight, you strike on the weak point. And I said, I'm sorry, I don't know how to fight, It's not part of my habits. But we shouldn't do that. That's a commitment we take. Not to strike in the vital point. Not to harm others. Okay? So we don't go to look where is the weak aspect, where is the weak point, and then we try to harm that person. Don't do that. Number 14. Don't burden an ox with the load of a dzo. The dzo is the son of a yak and a cow. Okay? And it has the ability to hold much more weight. It's stronger than one normal ox. Okay? So basically, it's saying that we shouldn't take the responsibility and give to someone that is not the responsibility. We should keep our own responsibility. I make a commitment, it's my responsibility. I make a mistake, it's my responsibility. I should not pass over and put it on someone else. Okay? I think it's quite clear, right? Next one, 15. Don't abuse the practice. Don't use the spiritual practice, and specifically in this case the practice of lojong, in order to gain material things or mundane benefits and things like that. Like if we make a very small and practical example, it could be like, when I need to do the umze in the gompa, I'm going to guide a practice. Yes, I want to do the umze so that I don't need to pay for the dinner. Okay? If you do that, what happens is that basically, why am I doing the umze, which is something spiritual? Because I don't want to pay for the dinner, so I am abusing the practice. Okay? Or for example, if someone is a Dharma teacher and he goes to teach the Dharma somewhere, and basically he's teaching the Dharma because he wants money, or because he wants recognition or fame or anything like that, that's a way of abusing the practice. So do not use the practice in order to gain material things and so on. This is a way of abusing the practice. Next point. Don't sprint to win the race. Don't try to be the first one to eliminate selfishness and to be the first of the class and to have a hurry in order to get the recognition. Follow your path in a stable way, step by step, recognizing your own process, your own timing, and not comparing yourself with others and wanting to be faster than other disciples or other people. Okay? Number 17. Don't turn gods into devils. This means is again a metaphor. God is something good, devil is something bad. So the meaning of that is that we should not make something that is really beneficial, such as the practice of training the mind, of eliminating selfishness, of the lojong, of mind training. We should not make the practice of Lojong a way that our selfishness gets stronger. Because if we practice it in the wrong way, it is possible that I may feel I am a Lojong practitioner. Oh, look at that, I am eliminating my selfishness. I am practicing Tonglen, giving and taking. Oh, look how good I am, how powerful I am, or whatever. So finally, what happens is that what is supposed to eliminate selfishness builds up more selfishness. This is when we turn gods into devils. Okay? So we shouldn't do that. And the last one, don't seek others' misery as a means to your own happiness. So, whenever we make any choice that we are looking for our own happiness, we should never do that if that choice will directly inflict suffering on someone. And in order for me to be happy, my happiness depends on someone's suffering. Okay? If we make some very simple examples, we go to a bus and then there is someone that is sick or someone very old that has difficulty standing up. So, and I try just to run and to sit as fast as I can in order to take the seat from that person. Okay? Why? Because I want to be comfortable, but I am inflicting directly my comfort in this case depends on the suffering of someone else. Okay? This is just one very simple example. Okay? This doesn't mean that we need to avoid every action that someone will suffer out of it, because that's impossible. Even Buddha, he had his cousin Devadatta that was extremely envy of him, and so was all the time suffering for the things Buddha was doing. And sometimes we can do wonderful things and someone will be upset with it. Okay? So, one thing is that I make a choice, I make an action that I think is the best for me, and someone is not able to accept it, it doesn't want to understand it, and have a different, so it suffers out of that. Another thing is that in order for my choice to happen, that person must suffer. It's completely two different situations. Okay? That's the second one is the one we need to avoid. Okay, with this we complete the 18 commitments, and now we'll just go through the reading of the 22 advices or precepts. Okay? We go now to read the 22 precepts on the mind training, as it says. Every yoga should be performed as one. What do we mean by about every yoga? What are the types of yoga that exist? Hatha yoga, Ashtanga yoga, Kriya yoga? No. When we talk about yoga here, it means action. So it's the yoga of sleeping, the yoga of dreaming, the yoga of awakening, the yoga of washing ourselves, the yoga of eating, the yoga of dressing, the yoga of working, the yoga of pleasure. There are different types of yoga, which means every action that we do in our life. Yoga in this context means the action done in the excellent way. So we should do every action as it is part of the same one. So every yoga should be performed as one, which means every action we do in our daily life, it should be part of one only action, which is to eliminate selfishness and to develop love, compassion, and wisdom. Doesn't matter what I'm doing, it should be part of the same action. All errors are to be amended by one means. It doesn't matter what situation we find ourselves in of difficulty and suffering, we should always find a solution by the practice of Lojong, transforming the adverse circumstances into the path to enlightenment, observing our own defilements, giving and taking, and so on. Okay? There are two activities, at the beginning and at the end. Anything that we do, there are two things to be done, one at the beginning and one in the end. Every action we do, in the beginning we need to generate the motivation, and in the end we dedicate our merits. Okay? Whenever we do something positive, in the beginning generate the motivation, in the end dedicate the merits. Whichever occurs, be patient with both. Which means, independently if we experience a positive situation or a negative situation, pleasure or suffering, be patient in the sense of do not let go your practice of mind training. It doesn't matter if it's a moment of pleasure or if it's a moment of suffering. It should not be the reason to let go the practice of mind training of Lojong. 5. Guard both at the cost of your life. Protect your own vows and commitments. General vows, such as the vows of the Pratimoksha, not killing, not stealing, not lying, and so on, and the specific commitments of the mind training, the 18 vows of mind training. Protect them at the cost of your life. Doesn't matter what happened. Do not break your vows, your commitments. Train in the 3 difficulties. This is an important part also. Train yourself in the 3 difficulties. The 3 difficulties are: first difficulty, to recognize our mental defilements as they appear. For example, anger. To see anger as it appears. At the first step of the first difficulty, we are able to see anger, but we are not able to control anger. And this is important because many people come to me and say, it's useless for me to practice because I can see my defilements coming, but I'm not able to do anything about it, so it's even worse. This is the first step. So the first step is that whenever we see that a defilement is arising, we are able to see, but we are not able to control it. So this is the first step, the first difficulty. The second difficulty is to apply the antidote when it appears. So I see anger coming, but I'm able not to let myself be driven by it. So I'm not going to talk with anger. I'm not going to act with anger. I'm going to practice patience at that moment. Okay? So this is not easy. The third difficulty is to give continuity to the second. To be able to keep the antidote for a long time. And not to let go our anger or jealousy or pride or miserliness and so on. Not to let ourselves be driven by it. Okay? Next point, number 7. Seek for the 3 principal causes. The 3 principal causes for our practice is to meet a good spiritual guide, a good guru, to have a mind that is wishing to practice, a mind that lesurunwa in Tibetan, it means that is suitable for the practice. In other words, have a mind that wants to practice, that wants to put into practice the teachings. And the third cause is to have the minimum material requirements for our life. Food, clothes, house, to have the minimum we need materially. So these are the 3 main causes that we should not give up. We need to seek to have the 3 main causes. Then, so seek for the 3 principal causes. Number 8, don't let the 3 factors weaken. The 3 factors that we should not let weaken is the faith and respect for our gurus, the joy, to have joy in the practice of Dharma, and to have conscientiousness, awareness of our 3 doors, how our actions of body, speech, and mind. Okay? Never be parted from the 3 possessions. The 3 possessions that we should never be separated from is a pure attitude of body, speech, and mind. Use our body in a virtuous way, use our speech in a virtuous way, use our mind in a virtuous way. 10. Train consistently without partiality. Train consistently without partiality, which means to some people I practice Lojong, to some other I don't. In some context I practice Lojong, mind training, in some context I don't. No, we need to practice at every context. Number 10. Value an encompassing and far-reaching practice. Value an encompassing and far-reaching practice. 1 second here. Where are we? Okay, now I remember. Value an encompassing and far-reaching practice. It means we need to make our practice that it's vast and profound, which means it means to be present at every action that we do. When we eat, when we talk, when we sleep, when we work, in every moment. Our practice should be present at every moment, and it should be deep, should not be just from the mouth outwards, but should be deep in our heart. Okay? Okay, number 11. 12. Train consistently to deal with difficult situations. Where do we need to start our training? Where do we need to train? Where do we need to put our practice? With the more difficult situations, not in the easy moments. So where do I need to practice love, compassion, wisdom, altruistic attitude, and so on? And here it gives 5 main situations, which is with the people that we live with and we interact daily, which means work, friends, family, people that we live with, nangimi, with our enemies, with the people that we have benefited and in exchange have harmed us, with those that we have an karmic aversion, and with our family members. Okay? So these are the people with whom we should start and begin our practice. Because it's easy to have compassion for the little children in Africa, where we never see them. Or to say, I love all sentient beings with the exception of that 5 people that I really don't like. We need to start practicing with those that are near to us, which are called the most difficult part. Don't rely on other conditions. Number 13. Do not expect other conditions. I will practice the day that I don't need to work anymore. I will practice the day that my body will be healthier. I would practice the day that this person will stop harming me, or whatever. We should never expect other conditions other than the ones that we have right now in order to practice. So no, do not rely on other conditions. Engage in the principal practices right now, which means from things that are only of the benefit of this life and things that are benefit also for the next, what is more important? Those that are also of benefit for the next. From the different practices, for example, developing concentration is very important. But of only developing concentration and on the other side, training ourselves to develop love, compassion, and wisdom, is more important to develop love, compassion, and wisdom. So it's more important to practice the mind training. So put your energy in what is more important. Okay? Don't apply wrong understanding. Wrong understanding is like to have patience with mundane things is a wrong patience. To have effort with mundane things is the wrong effort. To have, to have compassion for the practitioners of Dharma instead of having compassion for the people that are selfish is a wrong way. Sometimes happen, no? Oh, look at this poor person, he's so compassionate with others. Oh, instead of being compassionate with feeling sorry for people that are very selfish. Or there is the wrong form of affection. It means when out of affection we only care about ourselves, even though we manifest care for others. I like you because I try to be nice to you because then you are nice to me. That's a wrong type of affection. And sometimes there is a wrong type of affection where we give the best, but really not really caring for the well-being of the other, but because that's what we prefer to do. For example, when taking care of a child. Last time I was in Nepal, there was a small child there, a little girl, and she's being completely spoiled. You see this little girl, 3 years old, 4 years old, nice girl, but if she just make one list, if something is just slightly not the way how she wants, she'll already start to cry, already start to make a bad face. It's just enough for her to make half of a bad face that everybody's already around her trying to fulfill her wishes. Laterally, is this good for the child or is it bad? It's bad. Because the person doesn't know limits, the person doesn't learn that needs to adapt to the condition of others. Everything must be in the way how I want. That's how this person is grown up. So this is a wrong type of affection. Okay? In Tibetan, there is a saying that says, anyone that always says yes to you means doesn't love you truly. So there is like Sometimes we need also to exchange and give limits and show things as they are. Like, not possible always to say everything yes for everything, especially in a process of education. Okay. And the last one is do not act with a wrong intention and wrong aspiration, and not act with a wrong rejoicing. Rejoice for negative things and not for positive things, okay? So do not apply wrong understanding. Don't be sporadic. Today I practice, tomorrow I don't. Don't be sporadic, be constant. Practice unflinchingly. Practice unflinchingly. Where do we get that here? It means practice with strong faith, with certainty in what we do, not without any doubt. Release investigation and analysis. To investigate means to have a general understanding. Analysis means to go into deep details. So we need to analyze situations and things around us, and need to have a general understanding, then need to analyze. We need to have comprehension. So we need to analyze, we need to understand things, need to develop comprehension about things. Don't be boastful. Don't feel superior because you practice a spiritual path of training your mind on altruistic state. Don't be short-tempered. I think this is quite clear. Don't become aggressive simply because you don't accept how things are or whatever reason. Don't make a short-lived attempt. A short-lived attempt means when you want to do something, but at the first difficulty you give up. We need to have a long-term objective. So at any difficulty we have in the meantime, it's not a problem. We will overcome it and we'll go on. So don't make our attempts short-lived, because for any difficulty we give up. No, we need to be long-term objective. So we need to overcome the difficulties. And the last one, very important, don't expect gratitude. Do whatever you do for the benefits of what you are doing, not because you expect anyone to say thank you, how wonderful you are, or anything like that. Okay? So these are the 18 vows and the 22 advices of the practice of mind training, as it is said in the text of the Guru Puja. Whatever occasion we meet, we seek your blessings that we may adapt it to our meditation, to our familiarization with love, compassion, and wisdom, with an altruistic mind. By the skillful means of the 4 acts of use: accumulating merits, purifying the negativities, creating a good relation by generosity with the known physical forms of life, and relying upon a protector in order to eliminate interferences. May we render this life of liberties and endowments, may we render this so precious opportunity of this life that we have, may we render it infinitely meaningful. How? By putting into practice the 22 advices and the 18 commitments of the training of the mind. Okay? And I believe in our modern times, one of the best vows and advices that we can follow is this 18 vows and the 22 advices. They are really very much down to earth, very practical, not impossible, and really very beneficial. Okay? So now we will conclude here for lunch. After lunch, we will come back and we'll go to verse number 100, which is the conclusion of the generation of bodhicitta. And then after that, starts with the verses that refers to the 6 perfections. Okay? Jetsun lame kutse rapten chi namkar tinle chochur gepa dang losan tempe dreme sasumgi drove muse tatu ne gyurchi nimo dele tsendele nime kunyan delekshin ninsen taktu delekpe koncho sumge jingilo Concho sumge ngodrup tsol, concho sumge trashishon. At dawn or dusk, at night or midday, may the 3 jewels grant us their blessings. May they help us to achieve all realizations and sprinkle the path of our lives with various signs of auspiciousness.